Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you are seeing and hearing me. I am talking to you from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and I know there's a bit of a delay, so it might cut in at any moment. You might start and the sentence doesn't make sense, but there you go. Andrew is in New York, and we are about to start our second webinar. This one is about how you can change your life with vitamins, or vitamins, as you say, on the other side of the water. Andrew will be going through a PowerPoint presentation with you, explaining some things, and then he will answer a lot of your questions that you have submitted on Facebook or via email and so on. So I'm going to click a button here, and with a bit of luck, you're going to see Andrew's beautiful face from New York State in America. So, Andrew, are you there?
I am, Trevor. Thank you for that kind introduction.
I will hand over to you. Andrew, for those of you who don't know, was the star of the Food Matters movie, which has brought great prominence to him across the globe for his attitudes and knowledge, especially of healthy eating and so on, but totally specifically about vitamin therapy and high-dose vitamin therapy. So Andrew would be recognized as probably the #1 authority in the world on that at the moment. So I will hand over to Andrew, and he will take the webinar from here.
Thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Everything I know I've learned from really smart people who have taught me. Dr. Abram Hoffer of Vancouver in Canada, and his colleague Linus Pauling, Dr. Robert Cathcart, and so many others, Dr. Hugh Reardon. Truly, we stand on the shoulders of giants. This is orthomolecular medicine. This is using vitamins to prevent and to reverse real diseases. So tonight we're going to talk about how to change your life with vitamins. First of all, I don't sell them, and I don't recommend brands or companies. I've been speaking on natural health now. I'm in my 38th year of doing so, and I have had many invitations or other types of communications saying that I should provide information on brands or endorse a brand or perhaps sell products. No, I'm not going to do that, and you understand, those who have been following me in the Food Matters movie and at my website, dryourself.com, which is in its 15th year, you know that I haven't sold out yet. I do sell my books because I'm an author, but there's going to be no shilling and no pitches tonight, and there's nothing to buy. Early in World War II, there was a U.S. Army training film, and it had a quote that I think is still applicable today in all times and all places. Learn and live. If you don't, you won't. It's very important that we learn because this knowledge is vital to us. How to change your life with vitamins is not merely a casual thought for today. This is something you can use for your entire life and for your whole family, for your friends. Here's a case in point. 25 years ago, I worked with a woman who was in her late 20s, and she was HIV positive. She was a heavy drinker. She was a drug user. She was a smoker. She had a terrible diet, and due to very bad relationships and other reasons, she was under severe stress. Here's what she did. She decreased her drug and alcohol use, always a good idea. She still continued to smoke, never a good idea. She ate a poor diet, not a good idea, and was still under an awful lot of stress. She took multivitamins irregularly, but she took a lot of vitamin C very regularly. Indeed, she took vitamin C regularly for about 2 decades. I saw her not too long ago. After 26 years, doctors cannot detect HIV in her system. She was very pleased about that, of course. Now the doctors are saying that she never had it. Well, she did. She had been very carefully tested and retested and treated and seen by all kinds of physicians. There's no question she was HIV positive. She probably still has HIV in there, but they can't find it. Now, this has got to be good. Not being able to find HIV has to be a good thing. And more to the point, she has no symptoms. Vitamin C and multivitamins changed her life. And you've got to believe that they did, because back then people were told if you were HIV positive, you would have so many years before you would develop full-blown AIDS. 26 years, symptom-free, can't find the virus, took vitamin C. Hey, it rhymes. I'm a poet and I don't know it. But it wasn't just her life that changed. It wasn't just her life that changed. Dr. Robert Cathcart, a medical doctor in California, treated AIDS patients with up to 200,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. Imagine, that's really a lot. He found that even advanced AIDS patients live significantly longer and have far fewer symptoms. Here is the reference if you want to read up on it. The journal that published his work was Medical Hypothesis. Note the publishing date was 1984. If you want to read this article, you can go to my website and do a search for Cathcart, C-A-T-H-C-A-R-T, and learn more about his protocol, his treatment plan with very high doses of vitamin C. In the first webinar, we talked about vitamin C. And if you have not seen the first webinar, I think it would be a good idea if you took the time to do that. It is posted on YouTube, and it is available through andrewsaul.com. So I have two websites. dryourself.com is the educational website, and andrewsaul.com is where you can stay connected. And I also have a Facebook page. Now, there's two Andrew Saul Facebook pages. One is a fan page, and I thank them for the compliment. The other one says official on it. And the official website, the official Facebook web page, is the one that you would probably want to spend more time with. Now, there was a study at Johns Hopkins which demonstrated that larger than RDA multivitamin supplements slow down AIDS and even help to halt it. This was a 7-year-long study of 281 people. And those that took vitamins had only about 1/2 as many new AIDS outbreaks as those not taking supplements. Now take a real good look at that. People taking vitamins had half as many AIDS outbreaks as those that didn't. Here's the reference if you want to follow it up. This was in 1993, 20 years ago. Have you heard anything about this in the media? In 2004, a Harvard study showed that vitamins cut AIDS deaths by 27% and slow the progression to AIDS by 50%. Very similar to the study that was done that I just mentioned. So here, around 9 years later, a Harvard study confirms it. And they show that there's a decrease in deaths by 27%. Now, if there was a drug that did that, it would be all over the newspapers, wouldn't it? Now, they took multivitamins, and they found that these people delayed the progression of HIV to AIDS and actually saved lives of people with AIDS. There's the full reference. It was in the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most respected journals in the world, and again, virtually no media coverage for it. Okay, to summarize. In 1984 and 1993 and 2004, studies showed that HIV patients taking vitamins were 50% less likely to develop full-blown AIDS. Now, how much more information does the medical profession need before it can take a hint? Vitamin-taking AIDS patients live longer with fewer symptoms. And, as I said before, and I will say it one more time, have you heard anything about this on television, or in a magazine, or in a college course, or from your healthcare provider? In HIV-infected adults, A study just completed and published in the Journal of the American Medical Association just a matter of a week and a half ago showed that a single multivitamin a day plus selenium significantly reduced the risk of immune decline and morbidity. Morbidity means death. Now, this is the Journal of the American Medical Association, just published. Once again, it was just a single multivitamin supplement. Yet you have been told for months and years and decades, for that matter, that you do not need supplements. You've been told that they do no good, and you've been told that they harm you. Now, most people are not going to get HIV. Most people don't have it, fortunately, but about 1 million Americans do, and worldwide it's a very big problem. I'm going somewhere with this. Everybody is concerned about influenza. Everyone is concerned about the flu. Therefore, if vitamin C and multivitamins can effectively fight AIDS, think what they can do against other viral illnesses. All right, now we're going to talk about something that's a question that many people have sent in. What are the keys to vitamin C therapy? How do you do this? How do you make it work? There are 3 factors: quantity, frequency, and duration. That means you take enough C, you have to take it often, and you continue to take it until symptoms abate. At that point, you taper off. So you take enough C to be symptom-free, whatever the amount might be. That's a nice jingle, isn't it? Vitamins changed my life. I raised my children all the way into college, and they never had a single dose of any antiviral or any antibiotic. Not once, not ever. My children took half of their aid in grams of vitamin C every day. Now, you remember from science class that a gram is 1,000 milligrams. So that means that if a 2-year-old took its age in vitamin C, that would be 2,000 milligrams a day for a 2-year-old, 5,000 milligrams a day for a 5-year-old, 9,000 milligrams a day for a 9-year-old. And as you can see, I didn't give my kids quite that much. I gave them half of Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner's recommendation, which I just mentioned. I gave them half their age in vitamin C, and this worked very well. When they were sick, they had vitamin C to bowel tolerance. Linus Pauling wrote Vitamin C, the Common Cold and the Flu in 1976. This is a book that shows how vitamin C does fight viruses, and Pauling was right. He still is. In my family, we followed Dr. Pauling's advice. He was kidding a little bit, but largely serious when he said, keep this medicine out of reach of everyone. Use vitamin C instead. Dr. Pauling thought that should go on every label of every medication. Well, let's move away from vitamin C and talk about niacinamide, which is vitamin B3. It's a form of niacin. A family member cured her arthritic joint dysfunction using niacinamide. This is an idea that is not new. Dr. William Kaufman of Connecticut, USA, pioneered this treatment in the late 1930s. Dr. Kaufman's therapeutic dosage was 250 milligrams of niacinamide 10 times daily. Now, you need to understand that niacinamide is very similar to niacin, but it is not identical to it. Niacin will cause a flush, but niacinamide will not cause a flush. Niacinamide, therefore, may be suitable for people that want to work on something like common joint dysfunction. If you are using niacin to lower cholesterol, niacinamide will not work. You have to use either no-flush niacin, inositol hexaniacinate, or you have to use plain old niacin or one of the other regular niacin forms, or a prescription sustained release niacin, which is not as safe and doesn't work as well, in my opinion. So for arthritis, niacinamide worked very, very well. Had a question from readers on ADHD. Can you use niacinamide or niacin for ADHD? The answer is yes. Niacinamide is nice with children because there is no flush and the kid won't turn beet red on the school bus or in math class. Niacinamide will work for mental stress and behavioral problems as well. You're probably thinking, wow, this sounds pretty implausible. How can niacin help joint dysfunction and also help something like a behavioral problem? And the answer is because one nutrient is good for many, many things. There's a lot of crossover, and we find that niacin is good for a whole lot of things, or more correctly, a deficiency of niacin can cause a lot of problems. I discuss this in considerable detail in my book, Niacin: The Real Story. You can also access a lot of this information free of charge at the doctoryourself.com website. Just do a search for ADHD or for niacin. Now let's talk about vitamin E as an Edward. My father was diagnosed with angina. It was confirmed by a specialist, and my father started taking medication for his angina, and he came to me one day and said, Andrew, do you got anything that would help angina? I said, well, you're taking medication. He said, well, yes, but I don't like the side effects. So I told him about vitamin E and the work of Doctors Wilfred and Evan Shute in London, Ontario, near Toronto, Canada. Doctors Wilfred and Evan Shute had been using vitamin E for cardiovascular disease since the 1940s. When I talked to my dad about this, it was probably around 1992. So this was information that even then was 45 years old. Well, his cardiologist had never heard about it, and perhaps yours hasn't either. But Doctors Wilfred and Evan Shute were very experienced. They had seen 30,000 patients and treated them with vitamin E at their clinic. So my father started taking vitamin E. He said, well, how much? Well, the best way to do it is to gradually work up. He started with around 200 units a day, and then he worked up to 400. He said, how much of this stuff do I have to take? And I said, well, I'm not sure, but your body will probably let you know. Why don't you increase it until you notice improvement? And he thought he could do that, so he increased to 600 units of vitamin E a day, and 800. He felt he was noticing some improvement around 800, but he wasn't sure. He was still on the medication, so was it the medication, was it the vitamin E? Kind of hard to tell. But he continued to take more vitamin E and started to take less medication. Remember, he didn't like the side effects of the medication. That was the motivation. The medication was working, but the side effects were a problem. So he wanted to substitute vitamin E for the medication, and did. While increasing the E, he decreased the medication. That's a common sense way to do things. Always best to work with your doctor on that. Go to the doctor that put you on the medication if you want to get off it. Ask for a declining dosage schedule. Well, when he got to 1,600 units a day, he had no medication and he had no symptoms. And for the rest of his entire life, he never had angina again. In fact, years later, we were talking and I said, Pa, how's your angina? He said, my what? I said, your angina, Pa, your angina. Oh, I don't have angina. Well, you did have angina. No, I didn't. I said, no, you remember you had angina, you went to the doctor, then you went to the specialist, you're on the medication, remember you took it, and then you went on vitamin E? He said, oh, yeah, oh, that. Oh, well, I haven't had those symptoms in years. You still take the vitamin E, I said to him. He said, of course. Now, over these years, he had something else that occurred to him. His varicose veins went away. Now, my father's varicose veins were famous throughout the neighborhood because he loved to suntan in the backyard on an old army cot, a war surplus canvas wood-framed army cot. He'd set that out in the backyard, and he'd wear his Bermuda shorts, and on a hot, sunny day, of which there are maybe 4 a year in Rochester, New York, my father would be on that cot, lying on top of an old sleeping bag, just baking in the sun. Well, you could see his varicose veins. It kind of looked like a road map of London, and his varicose veins were dark, prominent, and classic. Now, this is my father, so I had privileged access to get continual peeks at his legs over the years, even though everyone else grew up and moved away, and I did too. But I saw him fairly often, and I can tell you that in about 8 or 9 years, his varicose veins were practically gone. Now, this is typical of vitamins. Instead of a side effect, which he had had with the angina medication, now he had a side benefit. So not only did he get rid of his angina, his varicose veins went away. Okay, now how do you explain that? Well, how do you explain that niacin is good for ADHD and arthritis and lowering cholesterol and for treating depression? It's difficult. You have to remember this. First of all, vitamins are not drugs. A drug can never act like a vitamin, but a vitamin can act like a drug if you use enough of it and use it intelligently. Now, there are 2 ways to do things. There's the way that your body responds to, and there's some other way. If you try to win an argument with your body, you're wasting your time. Pay attention. If your body is responding to natural therapy, there's something in it. If your body is saying, oh, these side effects of the medication are a problem, listen to that as well. Now, what I have to say is kind of odd, and I'm going to quote film director Oliver Stone, because when you hear me talk about this type of thing, in quotes, you might say, oh, conspiracy nut, leftist, madman. These are terms of dismissal, Stone said, so you don't have to listen to the argument. It would be healthier and more fun to hear what someone has to say. Well, you're tuning in tonight shows that you're interested, and I think you're going to tell other people because you're going to be able to help them. If you missed the first webinar, you can access it for free at dryourself.com or at the Andrew Saul YouTube channel or at andrewsaul.com. And there's other video that I've done that is also free access, and you can look at all of these things in your time. I'm going to be going to questions shortly. Before I do so, I want to give you my standard disclaimer, and that is, yes, I'm an author. Yes, I sell my books. However, you do not have to buy them in order to read them. You can ask your public library to buy them for you. You'd be surprised how many libraries will, in fact, buy a book or two that you ask for if you can say, you know, I'm really interested in this, and I think other people would like to read it as well. Many libraries, many public libraries, will go out of their way to try to accommodate you. If you can get your library to stock the book, not only do you get to read it for free, but a lot of other people can as well. Here's more free resources. The Orthomolecular Medicine News Service. This is our up-to-date news feed that we send out to all the major media and the minor media and to many, many thousands of subscribers worldwide. This is free by email. The Orthomolecular Medicine News Service is peer-reviewed. I have an advisory board of 24 physicians and researchers who look over the content and make sure that we're giving you accurate information. Well, we are. We're giving you the real story, that vitamins actually can be used to treat real disease. The Orthomolecular Medicine News Service is a free service. You can sign up at dryourself.com. You can also look at the archive of some 180 issues free of charge as well. Next is the Journal of Orthomolecular Medicine. This is for people that are, as one of my readers very kindly sent in the comment with her question, becoming dryourself.com junkies. And welcome, everyone. I appreciate that. The Journal of Orthomolecular Medicine is for those people that really want more information. If you want to read actual papers by researchers and physicians in a peer-reviewed journal, the Journal of Orthomolecular Medicine is probably a good place for you to go. The archive of the journal is online, and it is free access. You can access it right at dryourself.com. And finally, dryourself.com is easily searchable. If I did not answer your question already, and if I don't get to your question in the next part of the webinar, you can answer the question by doing a search right there at my website. There's a fairly good chance that you'll find information there. Here's some background information about me. This is repeated in the first webinar. I've taught for many years, and one thing I've learned in teaching is that Q&A is a good thing. And we're going to be spending time now answering your questions. But first, I'd like to quote a wonderful American wise man and very funny man, Will Rogers. He's the one who said, "I never met a man I didn't like." And people's minds are changed through observation and not through argument. And this is the point. A lot of folks get bogged down in argument. Hey, there's nothing to argue about. I got my kids into college. They never had an antibiotic. My children did not have vaccinations. They also did not get polio, diphtheria, or typhoid. They were fed a plant-based diet. When I saw some time ago that my blood pressure is creeping up, I noticed that my weight had been creeping up. And I had to take my own advice, which is always a bummer. So I lost 45 pounds. I did this by drinking vegetable juice, vegetable soups, a lot of borscht. I make really good borscht. And by eliminating desserts, and by having lots of raw foods. I lost 45 pounds in about 5 months. So I went from 236 to 191. Right now I'm hovering just under 190. My blood pressure immediately plummeted. The systolic went down 18 points over the course of that 5 months. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think there's a medication that can do that. But vegetable juices and soup and those silly vitamins can. Let's get to your questions. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your questions. I always enjoy reading them. One person says that I've read that ascorbic acid takes every mineral out of the bloodstream, and you have to take extra minerals if you take ascorbic acid, vitamin C. Well, it's just amazing what things people have heard about. I've heard about unicorns, but I'm still looking for one. I understand there may be a Loch Ness Monster, but we don't have any scales yet. There's a lot of myths about ascorbic acid as vitamin C, and this is obviously a good place to start. If ascorbic acid took minerals out of the bloodstream, we'd be dead. So would pretty much the entire animal kingdom. Most animals make their own vitamin C. They make ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is C6H8O6. That's ascorbic acid. That's vitamin C. That's the molecular structure. That's what the stuff is. It is a weak acid, but your body knows how to maintain balance. Your body can maintain the pH, or the acid-alkaline balance, in your blood with tremendous precision. And vitamin C is a weak acid. It doesn't affect anything. We have this idea that when we take ascorbic acid, we're going to leach the minerals out the way cooking stewed tomatoes in an aluminum pot will leach the aluminum out of the pot. Well, that's just not the case. You may act like a pot, my spouse says to me, but you're not one really. You know, you don't have to worry about taking ascorbic acid as a mineral drain. What you really need to do is worry about eating a lot of crummy foods that don't have any minerals in them to begin with. The problem is that we eat processed foods instead of whole foods. Switch to whole foods, go organic if you can, but certainly go to unprocessed whole foods which are mineral abundant. Does spirulina conflict or interfere with any medication? Not that I know of, although there's probably a little bit of iodine in there. I don't think that you're going to have any trouble with spirulina, but if you're on medication, you should check. How do you find out? Well, you go to the physician's desk reference. There's a dumbed down version in your public library, or you can go to the doctor's version, which is kind of technologically challenging, just like saying that word is. Or you can go online and you'll find a lot of information about drug side effects. Now, what you need to understand is this. There are two statements of drug side effects. There's the inadequate little silly summary that you get when you get the prescription filled. And then there's what the FDA got from the drug manufacturer. And that's what you really want to look at. So find the document and write to the drug manufacturer if you have to. They'll send you one if you ask for it or show you where to get it online. And search it. Search it for spirulina. Or if you're concerned about a vitamin interaction, take a look and see. All of these interactions that are known are listed. Usually, a drug interacts with you or your nutrients. You and your nutrients usually don't affect the drug. It's the other way around. A healthcare provider says that I work with elderly patients whose lives would be greatly improved by vitamins, and they know that. How can I persuade them to actually take nutrients on a daily basis? That's a really good question, and I think you've answered it. If they know and they don't, that's it. I have people in my own family that know and don't. I know people that smoke. They know it's not a good idea. They still do it. I know people that have unhealthy lifestyles. They still do it. If somebody knows, then they have really no excuse. But if you'd like to help them out, here's what you can do. Will Rogers. People's minds are changed through observation and not through argument. Set a good example. Be healthy. Dr. Albert Schweitzer, a medical doctor and Nobel Prize winner, said, not only is example the best way to teach, it is the only way to teach. This reader says, I teach nutrition at the college level, and the textbooks I'm required to use, written by dietitians, have a bias against supplements. I do my best to open my students' eyes, but would like to understand why this bias is so prevalent among dietitians, and what is the best approach to combating heavily entrenched beliefs that are often not reliable. I taught health science at the college level also. I taught clinical nutrition at the graduate level. And you're right, a lot of nutrition texts seem to be biased against supplements. I also know individual dietitians who are very much in favor of vitamin supplements. As an institution, the National Organization of Dietitians seems to me to have a rather dim view of vitamin supplements. But that's true with national organizations for nurses and physicians and a lot of other healthcare groups. Sooner or later, it comes down to this. If you're teaching a course and you have a lousy textbook, you're going to have to get a different textbook. There are alternatives. The textbook of Nutritional Medicine by Alan Gaby, he's a medical doctor, certainly would be a very interesting one to consider. Orthomolecular Medicine, a book that Dr. Abram Hoffer and I wrote, might be suitable. And if you pound the pavement and beat the bushes, you might find other more balanced texts out there. I haven't taught at the college level in some time, so I'm not up to date. I would say, though, that it's getting better all the time. Keep looking. When I taught out of a textbook that had errors in it, I would point out the error to the students, and then I would provide them with references so they could see for themselves. Here's a person who says, I'd like to study holistic nutrition. Is there any school that you recommend which has an orthomolecular approach in its curriculum? The short answer is no. I don't know of any school that you can go to that has an orthomolecular or nutrition therapy program. I can tell you that most bachelor's degrees will use very conservative, don't use supplements types of textbooks, as we just discussed with the person who actually had to teach out of one. If you get to the master's level, I think you're going to find very few options as well. Probably you would need to go to chiropractic college before you would encounter any serious discussion of therapeutic nutrition. Indeed, when I taught clinical nutrition, it was at a chiropractic college. Medical schools generally now have some nutrition education for doctors, but it's usually no more than one course. And if you look at the curriculum and see what medical students are being taught, you will find that they are taught that they should eat a balanced diet and don't take those dangerous supplements. So if you are looking for an orthomolecular nutrition program, I don't know of one. If you find one, let me know. People ask me about online schools for learning about nutrition. That may be a good way to learn about nutrition, but the credential that you get would probably not be acknowledged by most higher education institutions, and it would probably not get you a job working for a hospital or a physician, and it would probably not get you any kind of license or certificate that you could work with people directly. So this is a fairly long answer, but it's a very important question. If you want to learn about nutrition, go and do it. You can do that by reading. You can do it by seeing for yourself. You can do it by getting out your juicer. And you can do it by making sure that you investigate what's really going on with supplements and read the doctors that use them and copy them. That's what I do. If you want to make a profession out of it, you're going to have to pound the pavement again, and chiropractic college may be a good idea. If anybody finds an orthomolecular nutritional program at the bachelor's or master's level, I would like to know about it. Remember, with orthomolecular, we're talking using supplements to actually cure illness, therapeutic nutrition. Here's a person who says, I try to get to bowel tolerance of vitamin C. You may remember from the first webinar that bowel tolerance is oral dosing of vitamin C until you get to the point where you have loose stool. Now, you don't actually have to get to the point where you have loose stool. Gas or a rumble in the belly is probably close enough. That indicates saturation of vitamin C when you take it orally. So this person says, I've been taking 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C very frequently, getting up to 45,000 milligrams a day, but have no symptoms at all of bowel tolerance. So how do people reach bowel tolerance? Now, most people would indeed be making frequent visits to the toilet at 45,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. That's a fairly hefty amount. Remember that the USRDA is under 100. 45,000 is really a lot. Linus Pauling took 18,000 milligrams a day in good health. I do the same. But when the body is sick, it needs more vitamin C in the same way that a dry sponge holds less milk. Now the person adds that they have heavy metal poisoning. Ah, that might explain it. They had all of their dental amalgams out, and that, I think, might very well explain why they need so much vitamin C. Amalgams are the old mercury fillings. They were called silver fillings, but by weight they were 1/2 mercury. Mercury is a poison. When I taught science, if I had a spill, say a thermometer broke, and mercury got loose in the classroom, I had a special disposal kit that I had to use to make sure that there was no possibility of anybody getting the mercury on their skin or even breathing it in. Now that's kind of funny because at the same time, I had students in my classroom who had mercury drilled into their teeth by their dentist. You got to ask yourself the question, what's going on here? Most dentists now have come to the realization that amalgam fillings or mercury fillings are not a good idea, and composite white fillings are so good and so much more durable that it is common for you to get composites when you go to the dentist now. And if your dentist is not giving you composites, you should ask for them. I have it right on my dental records. I will only have composite fillings. But what about those old mercury fillings, the ones that you might have had 5 or even 25 years ago? Should you have all those drilled out? Personally, I think you should not. They've been in there so long that things have calmed down and sealed over, and I think disturbing them or exhuming those fillings could cause the trouble that this reader is talking about, where they're a little bit on the toxic side, and I think that's why they need more vitamin C. Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner and Dr. Thomas Levy have found and stated repeatedly that vitamin C is a very powerful antitoxin. Dr. Eric Patterson in British Columbia has found that vitamin C helps to antidote lead poisoning. These are all indications that in this person's particular case, the reason they're not at bowel tolerance is because they haven't taken enough C to detox the body yet. So if you're going to have the old fillings taken out, I would do it only as they break or crack or there's new decay under them. Old fillings can fall out, old fillings can wear out, old fillings can drop out. If you have drilling going on for, say, new decay next to the old amalgam, take the old amalgam out, just fill it all in with composite. I had my amalgams gradually replaced with composites in this way. Some people like to go the full Monty and drill them all out at once. Can if you want, but I wouldn't. This person says they avoid taking multivitamins with iron because of constipation. The worst form of iron is ferrous sulfate, and that's the form that's put in most baby foods and in pasta. So that's kind of a poor decision in my opinion. Better forms of iron would be ferrous gluconate, ferrous fumarate, or carbonyl iron. The food processing industry has been known to cut the occasional corner, and I think they may be using ferrous sulfate because it's so cheap. However, it is constipating. Women that are carrying a baby are typically given a prenatal vitamin with a lot of ferrous sulfate in it. And ladies who have been pregnant know that constipation becomes a problem as the gestation continues. So the last thing a woman wants when she's 8 months pregnant is to be constipated because of taking ferrous sulfate. So take another one. If your obstetrician prescribes a vitamin, or your pediatrician prescribes a vitamin, or your family doctor prescribes a vitamin, that's assuming they even prescribe a vitamin, and it has ferrous sulfate in it, just take that prescription or that label to a health food store and get the same thing, only natural. Try to get the different forms of iron. Again, that's ferrous fumarate, ferrous gluconate, or carbonyl iron. Generally speaking, men do not need to take supplemental iron. Generally speaking, women of reproductive years do. This person says, I understand caffeine interferes with nutrient uptake, but for me, I just have to have that 1 cup of coffee in the morning. Is there a problem? Nope. You want a cup of coffee? It's just not going to hurt you. It just isn't. If you're going to use a drug, caffeine's the one to go with. It's inexpensive. It's safe. Relatively safe. If you have 8 or 10 cups of coffee a day, you're headed for a heart attack. You can have permanent heart arrhythmia caused by excessive caffeine overdose. Caffeine overdose can cause cerebral allergies and even psychosis. But it is high doses of caffeine, the real coffeeholics, the real caffeine freaks, that I'm worried about. If you want a cup of coffee, go ahead and have one. If you're putting down 8 or 9 a day, you have a problem. When I taught drug and alcohol recovery courses, and I taught these in 2 state penitentiaries to inmates, most of whom were there because of drug and alcohol problems, so it was an opportune moment to learn, a teaching moment. I told them this: if you drink a lot of coffee, you will develop a physical addiction to caffeine. You really will. You can become physically addicted to caffeine if you drink enough of it. And the amount will vary. There is one case study of a woman who had 1 cup of coffee and her heart rate went to 270. Now that is very, 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 very unusual. For most people, a cup of coffee is just a non-issue. 8 or 9, that's a problem. This person writes and says, my main struggle is to find a vitamin supplement brand that I trust. I know you don't give info on this. What's the best way to go about finding a trusted supplement? Well, that's a nice way to put it. The best way is to become an avid label reader and write to the company and ask for a full disclosure of everything that's in their products. Now, a really good company will treat that request seriously. And I've gotten 30, 35 pages back from a company, and I do not write on my letterhead. I just send the letter as a private citizen. A really good company will want to know, will want you to know what's in their products. They'll go out of their way to tell you. But don't settle for a general letter saying, our products are better, our products are thoroughly inspected, our products are carefully manufactured, our products are made in harmony with nature or as natural as possible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Ask for a full label disclosure. You want to know everything. You want to know not only the dose, but the form. And you want to know what excipients are in there. Excipients are binders that hold the tablet together. So write to the company and ask them. Talk to friends. Go to health food stores and read up on it. This is something you have to research for yourself. You can do it. This person says, I am a recovered alcoholic and have a lot of curiosity about Alcoholics Anonymous co-founder Bill Wilson and Dr. Abram Hoffer. Dr. Abram Hoffer and I have co-authored a book called Alcoholism, well, The Vitamin Cure for Alcoholism. In The Vitamin Cure for Alcoholism, Dr. Hoffer tells people something that most people didn't know. Bill W., the co-founder of AA, was Dr. Hoffer's patient. So I am a heartbeat away from Bill W. because I worked with Dr. Hoffer and I'm proud to have been able to do so. Bill W. had gotten himself off alcohol using the very steps that AA still represents, and properly so. But Bill W., before and after drinking, both before he stopped and after he stopped, was troubled with major league depression. Dr. Hoffer, who was Bill W.'s psychiatrist, was treating him for depression and put him on niacin, 3,000 milligrams a day. Bill W.'s depression was gone in a week. Bill W. took 3,000 milligrams of niacin every day until he died. The reader wonders if I directly worked with Bill W. The answer is no, but I directly worked with Abram Hoffer. He worked with Bill W. when I was still, in high school. Dr. Hoffer was elderly. He died at 91 and a half. That book, again, is The Vitamin Cure for Alcoholism by Dr. Hoffer and myself, and the whole story of Bill W. trying to get Alcoholics Anonymous to endorse the use of niacin is in the book. To my knowledge, AA still does not recommend niacin to recovering alcoholics, and I think it would be a good idea if they did. Remember, if you take niacin, you're going to have a flush. If you take niacin, you're going to have a niacin flush. Dr. Hoffer recommended 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day for a total of 3,000. A flush can be avoided by taking no-flush niacin, and that's inositol hexaniacinate. Dr. Hoffer and I also wrote a book called Niacin, the Real Story, along with Dr. Harold Foster, and we go into this in great detail. You can also go to docyourself.com and do a search for niacin flush and learn more there. Excuse me. The heat is running because it's cold outside, and that means the air is dry. This person wants to know about brain cancer and what can be done for that. The first thing I want to say is that any form of cancer, in fact, any form of disease, is a serious matter. And although my website is called Doctor Yourself, and I have a book called Fire Your Doctor, I actually think you should work with your doctor. I simply think that you should manage the case and not the doctor. It is your job site. It is your body. I think the decisions should come from you, and the doctor is your contractor. When we're working with oncologists and when we're working with people with cancer, we have to remember two things. It is depressing being an oncologist, and it is terrifying being diagnosed with cancer. There are no easy answers. If there were, you would have heard about them, and you're not going to hear any easy answers from me. But I can tell you this. I have 38 years' experience working with people, and I can tell you that seriously ill people, of whom I've seen more than my share, and people with terminal cancer, of whom I've seen more than my share. This is on referral from physicians and working with physicians. I can tell you that there are things that may help. The first thing we have to do is understand that just because we don't have a cure doesn't mean there isn't something we can do to make the patient feel a lot better and to live a lot longer. So we can go after quality of life and length of life. We can improve quality of life by giving them vitamin C. That's the first thing. Cancer patients that take vitamin C tend to have better appetites. They tend to have less pain. They tend to be more mobile. And they also tend to have stronger immune systems. These are good things. The Gerson therapy, which is founded on organic food, unprocessed food, avoidance of junk, and consuming a large amount of vegetable juices, is also a very, very good idea. If you read Max Gerson's book, A Cancer Therapy, Results of 50 Cases, you will be astounded to see actual x-rays and other imaging of terminally ill cancer patients, some with brain cancer, that recovered on the Gerson program, which is basically 10 glasses of vegetable juice a day, body temperature coffee enemas for cleansing, and some supplements, and a vegetarian unprocessed food diet without any salt. Now that is a very brief summation of the Gerson therapy. The Gerson therapy and vitamin C, particularly vitamin C given intravenously, can really make a difference in quality of life, and they can really make a difference in length of life. I've worked with people that were terminally ill with cancer, and they lived longer than anyone estimated. And that was nice. But it wasn't just how long they lived, it's how they lived long. They felt better, they were active, they were able to travel, they were not bedridden. And this is the real message here. Length of life and quality of life, in my experience, invariably improves when you use vitamin therapy. Remember that we want a cure. Of course we do. But we also have to remember that making a person feel a whole lot better and getting them a few months or years more is immeasurably valuable. So look into that Gerson therapy. If you want to learn about intravenous vitamin C, at my website is a free download of the Dr. Reardon Intravenous Vitamin C Protocol. This is written for physicians. It is lengthy and it is highly technical, and that's what you want. Print it out. Again, it's a free download. Take it to your doctor and say, I want you to do this, and then sit back and see what happens. Usually, it'll be like asking a French restaurant waiter for chow mein. It's not on the menu, and they're not going to serve it, and they're not going to go out and get it for you either. If you want intravenous vitamin C done, you're going to have to push. You're going to have to really get on this and make it happen. It can be done. I have hints on how to get IV vitamin C administered to a hospitalized patient at dryourself.com. We also discuss this in the book Hospitals and Health with my co-author Stephen Hickey of UK, and in Steve's and my book Vitamin C, The Real Story, which is really important for people to have access to if they want to use vitamin C therapeutically. Another book is called I Have Cancer, What Should I Do? I'm the co-author of that along with Dr. Michael Gonzalez and Dr. Jorge Miranda Massari in Puerto Rico. They worked with Dr. Hugh Reardon, who originated the Reardon IV vitamin C protocol. These are all resources for you, but you don't have to buy the books. Just download that Reardon protocol from dryourself.com and read it over. There are videos available from the Reardon Clinic in Wichita, Kansas. There's about 20 of them, instructional videos online. And you can access them, and your doctor can too, and see all the latest information and techniques for using intravenous vitamin C. How safe are sprouts? Very. Every once in a while there's a media flap over somebody getting some kind of illness because they had store-bought sprouts. Well, if a food is stale or if it's kept wrong, I suppose it can go bad, can it? I have a solution. The first is, if they don't look good, they don't smell good, don't buy them. And better yet, grow your own. Sprouting is easy to do. This person says, I am not planning to grow my own sprouts. Well, there's the problem. Growing your own sprouts is the answer to the whole question. This person says, I have allergies. I've had them from when I was 8 years old. I was using inhalers, and I've been taking vitamin C and vitamin D as in Doug. My allergies and mucus cough are still with me, but much reduced. How can I clear these things up completely? Well, that's a good question. Congratulations on what you've already done. One thing you can try is going on a dairy-free diet. Dr. Abram Hoffer would tell you that if you were in his office and you presented this problem. He would say, get off of dairy products. I'm not sure that's it. I used to milk cows. I'm a former dairyman. Oh, yes. I milked 120 head twice a day, got up at 3 in the morning, ran around in this big field to wake the cows up. Cows sleep, you know. And I had this flashlight where the batteries were almost completely dead. No one ever saw me do this except the cows, but I must have looked like a complete nut running around the pasture waking up cows at that hour of the morning with my pitiful little flashlight, dodging these huge looming boulders of bovine in front of me. The trick, you see, is you only have to get 3 or 4 of the cows awake, and then they head for the barn because they want the grain, and the other cows just kind of follow them. I'm just telling you that in case you ever have to milk cows. The trick is not to wake all the cows up. The trick is to wake up the cows that want to eat, and then the rest will follow them. There. Didn't expect to learn that tonight, did you? Having been a former dairyman, I raised my children on raw milk. Raw milk right from the milk tank. Milk and cream and homemade yogurt. I also gave them goat's milk. I am well disposed towards dairy products in general, but not the homogenized, pasteurized white water that's called skim milk or 1% milk that's sold in a supermarket, and certainly not the stuff that has the hormones in it, the RBST, the bovine growth hormone. Having been a dairy farmer, I know from taking care of cows that you can't put drugs into them and get good quality milk. Some people do better without any dairy products at all, and if you have an allergy problem that won't go away, you might be one of them. I can't drink fluid milk, but I can eat cheese and yogurt and I consider those good foods. But I can't have cream or fluid milk. The older we get, the more often that's the case. So try a month without dairy and see if your allergies get better. And you might want to get your vitamin C level up to saturation. What supplements are most successful to promote overall prostate health? Well, in addition to vitamin C, you didn't see that coming, of course, I would say zinc. The prostate contains an awful lot of zinc. Men lose zinc the way women lose iron. Women lose iron in their menstrual flow because they're losing blood. Blood contains iron. And men lose zinc in sexual intercourse. So zinc is something that the prostate likes and usually needs a little more of. The USRDA for zinc for men is pretty low. It's in the neighborhood of 15 milligrams or so. I would recommend that men take around 55 to 85 milligrams of zinc a day. Zinc gluconate is a very good form. There are other forms as well, but the zinc gluconate is cheap and well absorbed. Another thing that's really good for your prostate are tomatoes. There was a study done in Italy, naturally, that showed that men that had 10 fresh tomatoes a day were much less likely to get prostate cancer. Now, some people are down on tomatoes. I've heard people say, well, you shouldn't eat tomatoes because they're too acidy. Oh, please. You shouldn't eat tomatoes because they're in the nightshade family. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Look, there's a difference between belladonna that grows on the fence by my garden, which is a poison, and tomatoes which grow in my garden, which is a food. There is a difference. Tomatoes are our friends. Tomatoes are okay. Tomatoes are good for you. Raw, pureed, stewed, any way you want to eat them. Juice them. Just eat lots of tomatoes. My father would eat tomatoes like apples. If you gave him a tomato, he'd just take it in his hand and he'd just eat that tomato. He wouldn't even cut it up. He loved tomatoes. I love tomatoes. Tomatoes love you. And if you're a man, your prostate loves tomatoes. Why? Tomatoes are high in lycopene. And lycopene is a fabulous antioxidant. And it's found in red vegetables, of whom there aren't very many. So if you have foods like blueberries, tomatoes, watermelon, brightly colored foods, you get a lot of these plant colors that are beneficial for you. Tomatoes are extremely high in lycopene. Therefore, tomatoes are good for your prostate, as is zinc, as is vitamin C. I would also recommend that if you want a healthy prostate, move in the general direction of a plant-based diet. Less red meat, good idea. I've often been told that I'm a vegetarian, which is odd because I'm not. I'm not a meatitarian either. My personal view is that we should eat as little animal protein as possible. And if everybody were to cut their meat intake by 20%, people would be healthier right away. You really want to save healthcare expenses in this country, cut your meat intake. Go to plant-based foods. Plant-based foods are higher in fiber, they're nutrient-dense, and they have a lot less fat, and they're ethically a little bit more satisfying. What supplements do you recommend for brain health and to prevent Alzheimer's disease? Good one. The symptoms of Alzheimer's disease or dementia are remarkably similar to deficiency of B complex vitamins. That's B as in Bobby. Vitamin B12 deficiency, particularly, resembles Alzheimer's disease or senile dementia. If you take laboratory animals and make them deficient in B12, you get demented senile animals. If you take people with Alzheimer's and give them B12 injections, you may notice a dramatic improvement. A B12 injection is easy to arrange with your doctor. You can also use B12 intranasally. We discussed that in the first webinar. You can take B12 tablets under the tongue, but the absorption of B12 is not very good orally, and it's particularly poor in men, and especially older men. There's a substance that you're supposed to secrete that you do when you're young and you don't when you're old called intrinsic factor. And it helps to break down the big cobalamin or B12 molecule so it can get into your body. Remember, just because it's in your stomach doesn't mean it's in your body. Let's say a person were to accidentally swallow a small marble. Now, don't do this. But let's say someone accidentally swallowed a small marble. That would be in the stomach. And then it would pass through your entire intestine, and in a couple of days it would be in the toilet bowl. Now that marble was in your body, but it wasn't really in your body. It was geographically in your body, but it wasn't in your bloodstream. It wasn't really in your body. It didn't get absorbed because your body says, hey, I don't want that. It's too big, and it's non-nutritive, and it's a marble. So things can go through you and right out the other end. It's absorption that matters. Absorption of B12 is perfect if you have an intramuscular injection of it. The dose should be at least 1,000 micrograms a day. 5,000 would be better, but you have to make sure that the doctor gives a concentrated B12 solution. Otherwise, the volume in cubic centimeters or milliliters, the volume of the shot under the skin in the muscle will be painful. So you want a fairly small volume of liquid going in the muscle so the person doesn't say, ow, all day. Intranasal B12 is probably a prescription item now. You can also buy certain forms of B12 that may be absorbed better orally, but I don't yet have enough information to tell you which one is best. The B12 shot is still the way to go, and to prevent and especially help alleviate Alzheimer's, it's definitely the way to go. Lecithin, which contains choline, may help Alzheimer's disease. Some studies have shown that it helps a great deal. Lecithin contains phosphatidylcholine, and phosphatidylcholine contains choline. Your body is very good at absorbing choline, and choline crosses the so-called blood-brain barrier very readily. So within hours of taking a choline-rich diet or supplement, that choline is in your brain. The body makes acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter, out of choline, and this may be a benefit for some neurological conditions, including Alzheimer's. I think it's extremely important. Lecithin is a cheap supplement, but there are some things you need to know. First of all, those horse tablets of lecithin seem really big, but you have to have 8 of those to make a tablespoon, and a normal dose of lecithin is a couple of tablespoons. If you don't want to take 16 big lecithin capsules a day, and I certainly don't, you can eat lecithin. You can buy lecithin granules. It's good in yogurt. It's really good on ice cream. And it's okay on cereal, but don't put it in anything hot or the granules will melt and you'll have liquid lecithin, which is fine if you're making a chocolate bar, but is not good if you're trying to consume it. It doesn't taste all that great. Yes, you can buy liquid lecithin. Yes, it's good for you, but it'll gag a maggot. It's really very, very unpleasant tasting stuff. The granules have very little taste, and the capsules, of course, have no taste, which is why people buy things in capsules. Instead of taking lecithin, you can get phosphatidylcholine by simply taking phosphatidylcholine supplements. More expensive, perhaps, but fewer tablets. Food sources of lecithin include egg yolk, a moderately good source of lecithin, and another source of lecithin, remember, lecithin's found in your brain. Another good food source of lecithin is brains, but most people don't really want that on their menu, and I'm not going so far as to recommend it. I'm simply pointing out that that is a good food source. Essentially, you have much to gain by trying the B12 and lecithin approach. I would also add the rest of the B complex. All of the B vitamins are easily obtained in a B complex supplement. These are inexpensive. Dividing the dose of the water-soluble vitamins works best. That means you take the B complex all through the day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Here is a reader that would like to know what kind of diet is healthiest. They're concerned that a vegan diet, which has no animal products at all, might not be a good idea in the long run, and they're wondering about a paleo diet, which has a fair amount of meat. Well, I would say that the truth is in the middle. Many people would do well to go on a vegan diet for 6 months or so. I think it would really help them feel better and clean out their system and lose weight. The paleo diet has something to recommend it as well, but I think that high amount of protein, particularly animal protein, poses a risk for prostate cancer later. I think there's enough evidence to suggest that that's the case. Red meat and prostate cancer are linked. I also think that a lot of meat and a lot of protein overloads the kidney. Worldwide, 40 grams of protein is considered to be a pretty good intake, and a whole lot of people on this planet of ours would be glad if they had 40 grams of protein in their diet every day. The average American consumes somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 grams of protein a day, which is fully 3 times more than they need. Cutting back on protein is a good idea. My concern about the paleo diet, or for that matter the Atkins diet, is not that they don't work, but that long term, the protein overload is not a good idea for the kidneys or the prostate, or for that matter the colon. A plant-based diet is more natural. We have Plant Eater's dentition. Our teeth are very much like a gorilla. Our teeth are very different than a wolf. Compare skulls and see for yourself. We have grinding teeth. I think that means we should go plant-based. Many people have said, are you going to upload this webinar so we can watch it later? And the answer is yes. If you go to the Andrew Saul YouTube channel, which you can reach through YouTube, or you can go to dryourself.com, you can access this video when we're done and the first webinar as well. We appreciate the fact that some folks are tuning in late, especially if you're across the pond in Europe. We thank you for that. This person is asking about migraine headaches. Migraine headaches are really difficult to treat. And those that have migraine headaches know this full well. My own experience has been that many people that have migraines have gotten relief by going to a chiropractor. I am not a chiropractor. I have no financial connection with the chiropractic profession. But having worked at a chiropractic college and worked with chiropractors, I've learned a lot about it. And one thing I've learned is that if you have headaches, particularly migraines, and you haven't ruled out your upper cervical vertebrae being out, you should go to a chiropractor, in my opinion, and have that checked. Magnesium supplementation can help migraines, as can niacin supplementation. These things work best in the early stages of migraine. Meditation and stress reduction can help. Many a person has found that when their life circumstances change, their migraines got a whole lot better or went away. Certain foods can provoke headache. Dr. Lyndon Smith, world famous as the children's doctor, he was on the Johnny Carson show 55 times and he won 2 Emmy Awards. This is a pediatrician. Dr. Lyndon Smith, very much in favor of orthomolecular nutritional medicine and vitamin C, said that if you crave a food, it's probably bad for you. Now, I can speak to that. I would love to be able to eat pepperoni. I just like the taste of pepperoni, but it makes me sick. It makes my throat sore, it makes my glands swell up, and it makes me ill. So I don't do that. It's the old joke of going to the doctor and say, "Doc, it hurts when I do that." Well, don't do that. If certain foods are ticking you off, if certain foods are provoking a problem, don't eat those foods. You can use common sense and elimination and work this out without too much difficulty. What about children and chewable vitamins, vitamin C in particular? This reader is concerned about acidity. Good point. If you're using chewable vitamin C, you should get non-acidic chewables. If it is on the label and says non-acidic chewable, it's probably made out of calcium ascorbate, possibly sodium ascorbate. Those are non-acidic forms of vitamin C. Vitamin C chewables, if they're ascorbic acid, should be followed with rinsing with water. When my kids were little, that was the only option we had, so they would have a chewable and then they'd have a rinse. Vitamins are in tablets for a reason. Swallowing them is easier than chewing them. The chewable forms are usually more expensive and lower potency. When you swallow them, it's just that much faster. This person writes about niacin flushes. We addressed that earlier. Niacin flushes can include itching. If you take too much niacin, you're going to notice the flush perhaps for an hour or more. That means you shouldn't take that much. You can start with little tiny bits of niacin and gradually work up. Having said that, I should also balance the statement by telling you that Dr. Abram Hoffer would give people niacin and tell his clients they were going to flush, and that if they just keep taking the niacin, the flush would stop in a couple of weeks. If you don't want to use that approach, you can use my gradual approach, which is also described at dryourself.com. If you take niacin and have a flush, that's normal. That's just a vasodilation. The tiny little blood vessels are opening up. Why do you do stomach crunches, this person says? Well, I do stomach crunches. I've done as many as 2,400 in 55 minutes. It took me 55 minutes to do 2,400. That's my record. I do it because I don't want to be pudgy around the middle. That's why. Stomach crunches are a very good way to work on your belly fat. There's lots of other ways to exercise. The best exercise for you is the one that you'll do. If you want to work on belly fat, another way to do it is to stop eating dessert. Another way is to go to a plant-based diet, which tends to be lower fat, and that means weight loss. Here is a question on vitamin C made from genetically modified organisms. Is vitamin C being made from GMOs? I don't know. Probably. Is it an issue? I am against GMOs. I am thoroughly opposed to them. Having said that, and having taught chemistry, I also need to tell you that the GMO part probably has nothing to do with the 6 carbons and the 8 hydrogens and the 6 oxygens that make ascorbic acid. Vitamin C is C6H8O6. You don't genetically modify atoms, so it probably makes no difference whatsoever. If you can avoid using GMOs, you should do that because it's the right thing to do, and in terms of the foods themselves, it's the healthy thing to do. But as far as worrying about it with your supplements, I think that in terms of an actual vitamin molecule, it does not matter. People have written to me saying, well, what about supposedly vitamin C as ascorbic acid killing off beneficial gut bacteria? This one I definitely want to address because a number of folks have brought this up to me. Vitamin C ascorbic acid is cheap. There's no money in selling it. It works really well, and the vast majority of research showing that vitamin C cures disease has been done using ascorbic acid. The conspicuous exception would be intravenous vitamin C, which you have to use a non-acidic solution, usually sodium ascorbate. The concern about vitamin C's acidity is more in the name than in the chemical reality. Vitamin C is a very weak acid. Your stomach contains a very strong acid, hydrochloric acid. Your stomach acid is about 45 or 55 times stronger than vitamin C. Your stomach acid is so strong that if you vomit, you can feel it burning the inside of your esophagus. If you've ever thrown up, you can feel that acid in your mouth. If a person has acid reflux or similar problems where the gastric fluid, the stomach fluid, rises up into the throat, they can develop scarring and actual damage to the esophagus. That's how strong the acid is. Stomach acid is very strong. Introducing a weak acid like vitamin C into a strong acid environment like that doesn't really change it. Now, people are saying vitamin C killing gut bacteria. Is it true? The answer is no. First of all, the acid in your stomach is natural. It's there for a reason. It activates pepsin so you can digest protein. You need that stomach acid. Indeed, many people with indigestion benefit by taking betaine hydrochloride or other supplements to help them break down food, and sometimes it's a lack of stomach acid that can cause problems in your colon. Well, what happens with this strong acid? In the same way that strong acid burping up into your esophagus can cause damage, strong acid going into your intestine would also cause damage, but your body knows that. So your body secretes an extremely alkaline substance right at the base of the stomach as the material goes into your small intestine. Your body secretes an alkali, which neutralizes the stomach acid. Now, if it can neutralize your very strong stomach acid, obviously the friendly bacteria in your 21 feet of intestine are going to be safeguarded. If you have poor digestion, it could be a lack of acid. Now, you don't go drinking acid. I don't mean that. We all know that's a bad idea. Acid is, in our minds, and rightly so, something that is dangerous and a poison. But that's battery acid. That's acid from your chemistry lab. That does not apply to citric acid, which you find in lemonade or oranges. It does not apply to ascorbic acid. It does not apply to acetic acid, which is vinegar, salad dressing, and ketchup. We have to use some common sense. If your body can handle a strong stomach acid, it can handle a weak ascorbic acid. This one in particular is for a viewer in the United Kingdom, and I'm reading it because I think it's just charming and I wanted to share it with everyone. It says, "Dear lovely Andrew, last time you did your webinar, I put my alarm on, crawled out of bed, so excited, very groggy and tired. It was midnight in UK. Made myself some hot milk and honey and tuned into the last 5 minutes. Oh dear, how did I manage to do that? Shall I try again? Will you answer my question about repairing the myelin sheath? Of course you can't say, just give me a hint, and I will get up in the middle of the night again. Just for you who," and then 3 kisses. Well, that was very nice, and you made my day. For everyone who's interested in the nervous system, the myelin sheath is important. It is kind of like the insulation around the nerve cells. Nerve cells are like wires. They're long and extremely thin. They carry electrical impulses, and without those impulses, you're not able to function. In order to keep one nerve's impulse separate from another, it is insulated, just like when you have a cable of wires. Let's say that you were decorating a Christmas tree and you had strings of lights. You can tape all those wires together, and they're not going to short out. But if you remove the insulation from those wires, if you touch them together, they will short out. In a manner of speaking, that's what happens with your nerves if the myelin sheath is damaged. This insulating layer around your nerves does get damaged and degenerates in multiple sclerosis. Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner hypothesized that the B vitamin thiamine, vitamin B1, would help to rebuild the myelin sheath on nerves. He wasn't sure about that, but he noticed that if you took laboratory animals and made them deficient in vitamin B1, that you could cause neurological problems. He gave his patients thiamine, vitamin B1. Recent research has shown that niacin, vitamin B3, works very favorably in the animal version of multiple sclerosis, also to help rebuild the nerve sheath. If you want to take a look at what Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner did for his patients, his multiple sclerosis protocol is posted at dryourself.com, and again, it's a free download. The B-complex vitamins in general seem to be the way to help restore the myelin sheath, that is the insulation on your nerves. I have worked with people with multiple sclerosis, not a lot of them, but I have seen people that have benefited greatly by taking really, really high doses of B vitamins. Maybe 6 times a day they would take like a balanced B50. They would also drink vegetable juices. One person had a remarkable recovery. He went from being in a wheelchair to getting around the house and yard in using a walker in a matter of only a couple of weeks. So I would urge people to take a look at Dr. Klenner's multiple sclerosis protocol to learn more about repairing the myelin sheath. So I heard someone say that children don't need vitamins. Well, they do. Vitamins are vital. Without vitamins, we don't live. Without enough vitamins, we don't live well. I'm confused, the reader says, because my son is 20 months old and he consumes about 1,500 to 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C for prevention. Also a chewable multi, and he is still nursing. What's your opinion on that? My opinion is that that's just fine, although I would tend to wean the child probably before 20 months. There's no harm in continuing nursing. My kids weaned themselves. They just showed so much interest in what we were eating at the table that we took whatever we were eating and ran it through a little hand food mill and gave it to them. So my kids weaned themselves in 6 and 8 months, respectively. They just did it on their own. Giving your children vitamins is a good idea. Giving a 20-month-old baby 1,500 to 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day is a good idea, although for some kids that may be too much. You want to divide the dose. If the child has loose stool or has a lot of gas, back off. It's not a contest to see how much vitamin C you can hold. It's taking what works, do what makes you feel better, do what gives you a healthy child. Trevor, do we have time for any more questions? I'm going to take that as a yes. How do you manage to raise children without immunizations? First of all, it's not easy. The whole story began when my first child went in for a well baby checkup and got routine immunizations. And at this first session, really nothing happened. So his mother and I decided that, well, okay, we'll go back in for the second round of shots. We hadn't really decided how we felt about shots, but the routine was set by the doctor's office. We followed it. After his second round of shots, he developed side effects from it. A lump on his leg and also a sudden high fever and screaming, and it was pretty unsettling. So at that point, we decided that we were not going to give immunizations any longer. When you take that stand, you are on thin ice. There are several ways that you can raise children without immunizations, but before I tell you about them, I want to emphasize this. It is not enough to say no to immunizations. You have to have a plan in place, a positive, a proactive plan to keep your kids well. If your kids aren't well, social services is going to descend upon you and take them away from you. This is just not funny. There are cases in the newspaper all the time where parents have gotten into trouble for rejecting medical treatment. That I'm not going to go into tonight, but we can in a future session perhaps. Nevertheless, if a person wants to avoid immunizations, they can take a religious exemption. Certain churches provide for this automatically, but in the United States in general, and in New York State where I am in particular, It's possible to have it a matter of sincerely held personal religious belief. This is not without its difficulties. In my book, Doctor Yourself, I go into this in considerable detail. How to raise a child without immunizations if you choose to. I'm not telling you to get shots. I'm not telling you not to. In my opinion, shots do not confer adequate protection. For instance, right now, right this minute, there are articles in medical journals that are discussing pertussis vaccine. There have been outbreaks of whooping cough in Westchester County near New York City and also in California, USA. The vast majority of the children getting whooping cough have been fully immunized. This suggests that immunization may not be that effective. We also know that side effects with immunizations are so severe that, again, in the United States, vaccine manufacturers are actually protected from lawsuits. The government might give you compensation, but the vaccine manufacturers are protected. Our decision to raise our kids without vaccinations was taken with a great deal of thought. Looking back, I'm glad I did it, but I don't want you to think for a second that it was easy. If you are going to avoid shots, you are going to have to be absolutely, positively certain that you are extremely well read and ready to go with using vitamin C as an antibiotic and an antiviral, and that you are familiar with the laws where you live, and you need to find what I call a workable doctor. A workable doctor is not a physician that agrees with you on everything, but rather a physician that is willing to accept you as a patient even though you don't agree on everything. That would be my suggestion. If you have a workable doctor, you can find a path through this. If you do not have a workable doctor, you're going to end up without a doctor at all. It's a tough spot to be in. Once again, for more information on vaccine alternatives and vaccinations in general, the Orthomolecular Medicine News Service has articles on this. My website, dryourself.com, does, and the Doctor Yourself book does as well. Trevor, how are you on time?
You know, Andrew, I think we should call it a day. It's 1:30 a.m. here in the UK, and we've been on for an hour and a half. Absolutely flown. It's been fascinating.
Thank you. It's good material. It's important material. I'd like to remind everyone, don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody's word for it. Look into it and see for yourself. That advice comes directly from Linus Pauling. I've noticed something about Linus Pauling's critics. They tend to have fewer Nobel Prizes than Dr. Pauling did.
Yeah, that's true. That's for sure. Well, the total bright point of tonight's webinar for me was the fact that I can now eat cheese without feeling guilty. I've struggled with that for years, and now it's one of my favorite foods. So now I can shed the guilt and eat some cheese.
Well, you can, as long as you appreciate the fact that in moving towards more cheese, it would be a good idea to reduce your flesh protein intake. I consider it to be sort of a continuum. If you eat a lot of deli meats and a lot of hot dogs and a lot of processed meats, just moving towards steak and pork chops would be an improvement. The deli meats are so full of additives and fats that anything is better. Anything is better than cold cuts.
Yeah.
So now you're on, let's say, steak and pork. Okay, can you do better than that? Sure you can. You could go to chicken and turkey.
Yeah.
Well, now that you're there, how about organic chicken and turkey? Or how about fish? How about wild-caught fish? Let's support the fishermen.
It's a very interesting way of looking at it, because many people look at it as black and white. But if you can just keep moving in small steps in the right direction, that's a huge part of what you teach, I think, correct?
You're absolutely right, and you've summed up how I feel right on the nose. Spot on.
Okay, good. Excellent. Well, listen, folks, we will be back very early in the new year with another webinar. There's a huge interest in these, and the fascinating thing is that throughout that 90 minutes, we hardly lost any viewers at all. We held an even number right through that, which is amazing for an hour and a half. listening to one man speaking. So you could do us a favor if you go to Andrew's Facebook page. If you could drop us a review there, just drop us a note, tell us what you thought of the webinar, what was good, what was bad, what you thought of the length of it. Anything like that's good feedback for us. And if you could share with your friends on Facebook and stuff and Twitter what Andrew does, what he teaches, that would be a big help to us as well. We are really committed to getting the word out there, and not just to make Andrew some sort of superstar, but because we really believe in this message. We believe in what Andrew teaches. We believe people need to hear it. Food Matters got the word out to millions of people, but we honestly believe using the internet and using modern technology, we can exceed that eventually. So any help you can give us in doing that would be really appreciated. The webinar you watched tonight will be uploaded to Facebook, to Andrew's YouTube within the next 48 hours. So if you watch the Facebook page, we'll let you know when it's up there. Andrew, I'll hand you back for a moment just to say goodnight to people, and over to you.
Thank you. I love the old Chinese proverb, when you're sick of sickness, you're no longer sick. What motivated me into natural healing in the first place was when my infant son was put in my arms and they said, "Here, Dad." And for the first time in my life, I realized that I was utterly and totally responsible for the life of a human being.
Yeah.
You are responsible for the life and health of at least one human being, and that's you. I've been working with people for a long time now, and the one thing I can tell you is this. I have seen people improve proportionate to the amount of work that they do. If you want to become a successful gold prospector, you need three things. You have to want to be rich, you have to know where to dig, and you have to do the digging. Yeah. Everybody wants to be healthy. Now, with the internet, the information is there. It's there. My website will help you along. The books will help you. The Orthomolecular Medicine News Service will help you. And we're going to continue to try to provide as much guidance as we can. But in the end, it's the extent that you're willing to pick up the shovel and do the work. Information is there. It's hard work to get it, but it's worth it. The most sure investment you will ever make in your entire life is to spend 1 hour a day on your health. It will pay you back generously. My family doctor, when I was a little boy, graduated from medical school in 1929. He died at the age of 101.
Wow.
Think about it. I had a friend in Vermont, wonderful woman. I called her up on her 99th birthday. She wasn't home. Wow. It can happen to you. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir. Listen, folks, thank you for joining us. I know it's been a long webinar, but it has been fascinating. The time has flown by. And like I say, please join us on Facebook, on Twitter. We'll keep you informed what's happening, and we will see you all for another webinar in the new year. So from Belfast, a very rainy Belfast, thank you and good night. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you are seeing and hearing me. I am talking to you from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and I know there's a bit of a delay, so it might cut in at any moment. You might start and the sentence doesn't make sense, but there you go. Andrew is in New York, and we are about to start our second webinar. This one is about how you can change your life with vitamins, or vitamins, as you say, on the other side of the water. Andrew will be going through a PowerPoint presentation with you, explaining some things, and then he will answer a lot of your questions that you have submitted on Facebook or via email and so on. So I'm going to click a button here, and with a bit of luck, you're going to see Andrew's beautiful face from New York State in America. So, Andrew, are you there?
I am, Trevor. Thank you for that kind introduction.
I will hand over to you. Andrew, for those of you who don't know, was the star of the Food Matters movie, which has brought great prominence to him across the globe for his attitudes and knowledge, especially of healthy eating and so on, but totally specifically about vitamin therapy and high dose vitamin therapy. So Andrew would be recognized as probably the #1 authority in the world on that at the moment. So I will hand over to Andrew, and he will take the webinar from here.
Thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Everything I know I've learned from really smart people who have taught me. Dr. Abram Hoffer of Vancouver in Canada, and his colleague Linus Pauling, Dr. Robert Cathcart, and so many others, Dr. Hugh Reardon. Truly, we stand on the shoulders of giants. This is orthomolecular medicine. This is using vitamins to prevent and to reverse real diseases. So tonight we're going to talk about how to change your life with vitamins. First of all, I don't sell them, and I don't recommend brands or companies. I've been speaking on natural health now. I'm in my 38th year of doing so, and I have had many invitations or other types of communications saying that I should provide information on brands or endorse a brand or perhaps sell products. No, I'm not going to do that. And you understand, those who have been following me in the Food Matters movie and at my website, dryourself.com, which is in its 15th year, you know that I haven't sold out yet. I do sell my books because I'm an author, but there's going to be no shilling and no pitches tonight, and there's nothing to buy. Early in World War II, there was a U.S. Army training film, and it had a quote that I think is still applicable today in all times and all places. Learn and live. If you don't, you won't. It's very important that we learn because this knowledge is vital to us. How to change your life with vitamins is not merely a casual thought for today. This is something you can use for your entire life and for your whole family, for your friends. Here's a case in point. 25 years ago, I worked with a woman who was in her late 20s, and she was HIV positive. Niacin, inositol hexaniacinate, or you have to use plain old niacin, or one of the other regular niacin forms, or a prescription sustained-release niacin, which is not as safe and doesn't work as well, in my opinion. So for arthritis, niacinamide worked very, very well. Had a question from readers on ADHD. Can you use niacinamide or niacin for ADHD? The answer is yes. Niacinamide is nice with children because there is no flush and the kid won't turn beet red on the school bus or in math class. Niacinamide will work for mental stress and behavioral problems as well. You're probably thinking, wow, this sounds pretty implausible. How can niacin help joint dysfunction and also help something like a behavioral problem? And the answer is because one nutrient is good for many, many things. There's a lot of crossover, and we find that niacin is good for a whole lot of things, or more correctly, a deficiency of niacin can cause a lot of problems. I discuss this in considerable detail in my book, Niacin: The Real Story. You can also access a lot of this information free of charge at the dryourself.com website. Just do a search for ADHD or for niacin. Now let's talk about vitamin E as an Edward. My father was diagnosed with angina. It was confirmed by a specialist, and my father started taking medication for his angina, and he came to me one day and said, Andrew, do you got anything that would help angina? I said, well, you're taking medication. He said, well, yes, but I don't like the side effects. So I told him about vitamin E and the work of Drs. Wilfred and Evan Shute in London, Ontario, near Toronto, Canada. Drs. Wilfred and Evan Shute had been using vitamin E for cardiovascular disease since the 1940s. When I talked to my dad about this, it was probably around 1992. So this was information that even then was 40, 45 years old. Well, his cardiologist had never heard about it, and perhaps yours hasn't either. But Doctors Wilfred and Evan Shute were very experienced. They had seen 30,000 patients and treated them with vitamin E at their clinic. So my father started taking vitamin E. He said, well, how much? Well, best way to do it is to gradually work up. He started with around 200 units a day, and then he worked up to 400. He said, how much of this stuff do I have to take? And I said, well, I'm not sure, but your body will probably let you know. Why don't you increase it until you notice improvement? And he thought he could do that, so he increased to 600 units of vitamin E a day, and 800. He felt he was noticing some improvement around 800, but he wasn't sure. He was still on the medication, so was it the medication, was it the vitamin E? Kind of hard to tell. But he continued to take more vitamin E. She was a heavy drinker. She was a drug user. She was a smoker. She had a terrible diet. And due to very bad relationships and other reasons, she was under severe stress. Here's what she did. She decreased her drug and alcohol use, always a good idea. She still continued to smoke, never a good idea. She ate a poor diet, not a good idea, and was still under an awful lot of stress. She took multivitamins irregularly, but she took a lot of vitamin C very regularly. Indeed, she took vitamin C regularly for about 2 decades. I saw her not too long ago. After 26 years, doctors cannot detect HIV in her system. She was very pleased about that, of course. Now the doctors are saying that she never had it. Well, she did. She had been very carefully tested and retested and treated and seen by all kinds of physicians. There's no question she was HIV positive. She probably still has HIV in there, but they can't find it. Now, this has got to be good. Not being able to find HIV has to be a good thing. And more to the point, she has no symptoms. Vitamin C and multivitamins changed her life. And you've got to believe that they did, because back then people were told if you were HIV positive, you would have so many years before you would develop full-blown AIDS. 26 years, symptom-free, can't find the virus, took vitamin C. Hey, it rhymes. I'm a poet and I don't know it. But it wasn't just her life that changed. It wasn't just her life that changed. Dr. Robert Cathcart, a medical doctor in California, treated AIDS patients with up to 200,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. Imagine, that's really a lot. He found that even advanced AIDS patients live significantly longer and have far fewer symptoms. Here is the reference if you want to read up on it. The journal that published his work was Medical Hypothesis. Note the publishing date was 1984. If you want to read this article, you can go to my website and do a search for Cathcart, C-A-T-H-C-A-R-T, and learn more about his protocol, his treatment plan with very high doses of vitamin C. In the first webinar, we talked about vitamin C. And if you have not seen the first webinar, I think it would be a good idea if you took the time to do that. It is posted on YouTube, and it is available through andrewsaul.com. So I have 2 websites. dryourself.com is the educational website, and andrewsaul.com is where you can stay connected. And I also have a Facebook page. Now, there's 2 Andrew Saul Facebook pages. One is a fan page, and I thank them for the compliment. The other one says official on it. And the official website, the official Facebook web page, is the one that you would probably want to spend more time with. Therefore, if vitamin C and multivitamins can effectively fight AIDS, think what they can do against other viral illnesses. All right, now we're going to talk about something that's a question that many people have sent in. What are the keys to vitamin C therapy? How do you do this? How do you make it work? There are three factors: quantity, frequency, and duration. That means you take enough C, you have to take it often, and you continue to take it until symptoms abate. At that point, you taper off. So you take enough C to be symptom-free, whatever the amount might be. That's a nice jingle, isn't it? Vitamins changed my life. I raised my children all the way into college, and they never had a single dose of any antiviral or any antibiotic. Not once, not ever. My children took half of their aid in grams of vitamin C every day. Now, you remember from science class that a gram is 1,000 milligrams. So that means that if a 2-year-old took its age in vitamin C, that would be 2,000 milligrams a day for a 2-year-old, 5,000 milligrams a day for a 5-year-old, 9,000 milligrams a day for a 9-year-old. And as you can see, I didn't give my kids quite that much. I gave them half of Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner's recommendation, which I just mentioned. I gave them half their age in vitamin C, and this worked very well. When they were sick, they had vitamin C to bowel tolerance. Linus Pauling wrote Vitamin C, the Common Cold and the Flu in 1976. This is a book that shows how vitamin C does fight viruses, and Pauling was right. He still is. In my family, we followed Dr. Pauling's advice. He was kidding a little bit, but largely serious when he said, keep this medicine out of reach of everyone. Use vitamin C instead. Dr. Pauling thought that should go on every label of every medication. Well, let's move away from vitamin C and talk about niacinamide, which is vitamin B3. It's a form of niacin. A family member cured her arthritic joint dysfunction using niacinamide. This is an idea that is not new. Dr. William Kaufman of Connecticut, USA, pioneered this treatment in the late 1930s. Dr. Kaufman's therapeutic dosage was 250 milligrams of niacinamide 10 times daily. Now, you need to understand that niacinamide is very similar to niacin, but it is not identical to it. Niacin will cause a flush, but niacinamide will not cause a flush. Niacinamide, therefore, may be suitable for people that want to work on something like common joint dysfunction. If you are using niacin to lower cholesterol, niacinamide will not work. You have to use either no flush niacin. Now, there was a study at Johns Hopkins which demonstrated that larger than RDA multivitamin supplements slow down AIDS and even help to halt it. This was a 7-year-long study of 281 people, and those that took vitamins had only about 1/2 as many new AIDS outbreaks as those not taking supplements. Now take a real good look at that. People taking vitamins had half as many AIDS outbreaks as those that didn't. Here's the reference if you want to follow it up. This was in 1993, 20 years ago. Have you heard anything about this in the media? In 2004, a Harvard study showed that vitamins cut AIDS deaths by 27% and slow the progression to AIDS by 50%. Very similar to the study that was done that I just mentioned. So here, around 9 years later, a Harvard study confirms it. And they show that there's a decrease in deaths by 27%. Now, if there was a drug that did that, it would be all over the newspapers, wouldn't it? Now, they took multivitamins, and they found that these people delayed the progression of HIV to AIDS and actually saved lives of people with AIDS. There's the full reference. It was in the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most respected journals in the world, and again, virtually no media coverage for it. Okay, to summarize, in 1984 and 1993 and 2004, studies showed that HIV patients taking vitamins were 50% less likely to develop full-blown AIDS. Now, how much more information does the medical profession need before it can take a hint? Vitamin-taking AIDS patients live longer with fewer symptoms. And, as I said before, and I will say it one more time, have you heard anything about this on television, or in a magazine, or in a college course, or from your healthcare provider? In HIV-infected adults, a study just completed and published in the Journal of the American Medical Association just a matter of a week and a half ago showed that a single multivitamin a day plus selenium significantly reduced the risk of immune decline and morbidity. Morbidity means death. Now, this is the Journal of the American Medical Association, just published. Once again, it was just a single multivitamin supplement. Yet you have been told for months and years and decades, for that matter, that you do not need supplements. You've been told that they do no good, and you've been told that they harm you. Now, most people are not going to get HIV. Most people don't have it, fortunately, but about 1 million Americans do, and worldwide it's a very big problem. I'm going somewhere with this. Everybody is concerned about influenza. Everyone is concerned about the flu.